Good morning, coders. Today I'm going to show you a text-based adventure game in Java that I made for my juniors earlier this year. I'm going to show you guys how to start playing with it and kind of walk you through how the initial starter code works. Okay, so I'm going to post all the links in the comments of this video, but I'm going to assume you have Visual Studio Code with a Java JDK installed. GitHub Desktop, you can see my earlier GitHub video for how to get involved with that. And yeah, I think that's all you'll need. So you can go ahead and to start, you're going to go to my GitHub, bvaracek at Phoenix Union /Java TBA for text-based adventure game. So the first thing you'll do is you'll hit clone or download. So you will just copy this and you can open in GitHub Desktop, and that will bring you here where you'll hit clone. I have already cloned it, so yeah, it's already in my repo. So once you've done that, you'll get to a screen like this. If your GitHub is set up right, you can just hit open in Visual Studio Code, which is very convenient, and that'll give us this nice screen here. Git not found. Install using the Git path. I'll do that later. So I guess you can integrate Git into Visual Studio. Okay, so my Visual Studio isn't opening properly. Great. How do I solve this? Let's maximize it and then minimize it. Alright. So once you're here, you're going to see a bunch of stuff and a bunch of files, and hopefully you should see text highlighting going on here, but you won't be able to run anything just yet. In order to make this game work, we gotta get Visual Studio Code to realize that it's a Java project. So we are going to what are we gonna do? The way I've figured this out is I will just hit console program and then debug and start debugging, and it'll auto generate some configuration files once you try to do the debug, and then hopefully you should get a nice Java dependencies. This took a couple tries for some of us, so if you need help, just stop by my room. But hopefully you should get a launch.json file configured automatically once you started trying to debug from console program, hitting debug. You'll get this launch.json. We're just going to make one change here because I really like it. So right now when we hit run on this program, it will pop up the adventure game in the terminal here, which is okay, but I would much rather have it pop up in an external console. So what we're going to do for that is in this one, we're going to add a terminal or console. Nope. Dang it. I don't remember the command, so I'm gonna Google it real quick. I did not want to open my email. Cancel. So Java Visual Studio External Console. Console external terminal. That's what I was looking for. So I'm gonna copy that. And then we'll go ahead and pop that in right here. Control save. Alright, so now hopefully when I hit run, boom, it pops up in an external terminal. Alright, so welcome to Mr. V's Adventure. Your current choices are north and east, and I'm going to type in north, north of starting point, east, and the game breaks. Very cool. So I'm going to try and walk you through this code. So anytime you get into a new project, it's very overwhelming. I understand. So the way you run this is on console program, you can right click and hit run, or when you're highlighting over console program, you hit run. So this is the static void main file, which is essentially any Java file that you make, any Java program is going to start by trying to run the void main file. So then it says main class name my program. So I took this from Code.hs, and it's pretty nice. It gives us some nice terminal interactions, makes our life a little easier. So Code.hs has this console program starter file that does some things like allows us to use a shorthand version for system.out.println. So this isn't quite native Java. We're going to use just a little wraparound library to make console printing a little easier, because that's mostly what we're doing, is printing to the console in this game, reading from the console and printing to it. So I really like using this starter program here. Okay, so anyway, it says my program. So that's really what you need to know, is that the first class is going to program.run. It's going to find the file called my program. So let's go over to my program. So this is really the starting point of our game. So you can see public void run. So this is the first file that gets run. So the first thing that our game does is it makes a world object, and it makes a player object, and then it sets the player into the world, and then it says this is the main game loop, my world.game loop. So it calls the game loop of the world. So in the world, and now this is finally where most of the action happens. You can see in my comment here. So the game is really about this world, and you can see that the game loop function. So let's, so I'm going to minimize the other stuff in this for now, minimize the constructor. And so you can see this class has a constructor, and I'm going to go over objects and how objects work a little later, because this is a game really to help you to understand object-oriented programming and get an introduction to that. So I'm going to go step by step on how the different objects work, what a constructor is, how do you instantiate an object, what does that really mean. But this is just an overview and hopefully a way for you to get oriented and install and run the initial text-based adventure game. So then, so like I said, so I walked you through. We go from console program, it takes us to my program, and then that starts running the world game loop. So a little convoluted, but that's just what we're working with right now. So the game loop says Boolean playing equals true, and then while playing. So this, just like in our Game Lab games, a game is an infinite loop. So it's an infinite loop. In this case, while playing is true, we're going to be stuck inside this loop. And so as long as, if you want to end the game, then you would just set playing to false inside of this game loop. But let's see what happens. So playing, find out what location the player is in. Location equals player.getLocation. So essentially the way I've set this up is that the game is right now it's a 5x5 grid. So if you look here at the very beginning, we have a 2D location array. That's what this is saying. The data type of my world is a 2D location array, and it makes a new array of 5x5 locations. So we have 25 locations inside of our world. That is 25 blank spots to hold locations, to be more accurate, inside of our world. And then inside the constructor is where I set up all of the actions for that, but I'm going to go over that in a little bit. For now, just know that we have about 25 locations in our world. So what do? First is we find where the player is located. So the player is going to exist inside one of those 25 squares. And then it says get options. So if you remember well, I'll just run it again. I guess I closed it. If you remember here, when we run the game, your current choices are, so you have a couple of choices inside of this game. So you can either go north or east, or you can type blah 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 and it'll say invalid option. So if I go east, it breaks. So north is the only thing working right now, and east breaks. I left it to my students to try and fix this. I'll probably try and build something simple with you guys here, just to fill out the world a little more. So that's what the options is it's just that array of strings that lets you choose which directions you can go in this specific location that the player is in. And then a location has some flavor text, so it said Mr. V's Adventure. And then this says your current choices are, and then we can select. So read line will wait for the player's input. So this is where it's saying, do you want to go north, east? And then you wait for the player's input. I type north. And now str, the variable str, which is a string data type, is stored as the value that the user typed in. So then when I type north, str is equal to north, and then I say option.select north. So the option is the specific option for that location. So once I select that option, then I can check if the option's selection is equal to north. So this is kind of similar to is str equal to north? But what I wanted to do with the options is, like, if you come back to a location, I wanted it to have memory of what your players have done there before. So the option class lets us remember what players have done last time they were in that location. So this is basically the main part of the game loop that says if option.getSelection is north, then I will find the coordinates of my current location, and then I will set the player's location to be my current coordinates plus on the x coordinate will stay the same, and the y coordinate will go up 1. So we start, the starting location is, let's see, I made it location 1, which has coordinates 0, 0. So your starting location is 0, 0. So when I add 1, that increases my y coordinate by 1. So this is, I went back to like a math world where 0, 0 is the bottom left. I know in Game Lab, 0, 0 was the top left. So if you've been following my series from the beginning, might be it's a little transition we have to make, but just know 0, 0 is the bottom left of this world. So when I go up, I just add to the y coordinate. So this first bracket is it's the x coordinate of the location of the world, the location, the 2D location array, which is the world, and then the second bracket sets the y coordinate. So north, I add 1 to the y coordinate. South, I subtract 1 to the y coordinate. West, I subtract 1 to the x coordinate. East, I subtract plus 1 to the x coordinate. And then I made an option for fighting. And that's pretty much it. That's the game loop. So then once you choose one of those things, then it sets the player into a new location, and then the loop starts over back to the top, and then it says location equals player.getLocation. So the player stores its location, and yeah. So there's actually a bug. I'll probably fix this, but return this.fight option equals option. That's a small bug that I released this code with. I'm sorry. I'll fix it on the GitHub. So if you download this video a little later, you shouldn't have this bug, but if you do now, That's it. So we have this game kind of starting with this 2D array, 25 locations, and you can walk around the world, but nothing works, right? So that's because the 2D array has a bunch of nulls in it right now. It has a bunch of empty values. I only made the location 0, 0 and location 0, 1 at the moment. I also don't like how I released this with the variable names 0, 0, so I'm just gonna rename my variables to match their coordinates. So every location has these variables to it. So the way the game, to set up your world, this is the constructor of the world, and to set up a world you have to instantiate a bunch of locations and add them to the world. So this .add location adds a location to the world. So likewise, I'm going to rename these variables so it matches its coordinates. And I'll re-release the GitHub code with this updated stuff. So hopefully your starter code has this saved. All right, so now you can see at location 0, 0, my option for that location says I can go north and I can go east, and then I set location 0, 0 to have the option 0, 0, which has a north and an east attached to it, and I set the text for that location to say welcome to Mr. V's Adventure. So this is why when I start the game, so this is where my starting location. So when I start the game, I see welcome to Mr. V's Adventure. Location 1 cannot be resolved to a variable. Location 0, 0 is the starting location. Forgot to update that. So let's try again. All right, so welcome to Mr. V's Adventure. Your current choices are north and east. So now I can type north. I can go back south, and east breaks. We got to fix that at some point. But just know that I have the options north and east, and it says welcome to Mr. V's Adventure when I start the game because of location 0, 0 has those properties stored inside of it. Then location 0, 1 has north, south, east, and fight. And the text says north of starting point, and then there's an enemy robot there. So that's why when I hit run, I can go north, then I can type fight, and then I have some more choices to attack or run, and that gets me out of the battle loop. So I have a separate loop for battling right now. So there's a game loop and then a loop within that loop that you can start fighting stuff with. So right now there's only two options, going north and south. Everything else breaks. So first things first, when you want to make one of these games is you're going to need to map out your 25 locations. That might be a little big for maybe you want to make this only 3 by 3 so I can fill out a little more. But I'll just go ahead and add. So I mean I had all the comments here, so you could just add locations. I'm just going to make a 3 by 3 grid for you guys in my tutorial here. But you just know you can make your world bigger or smaller just by messing with these two numbers right here. So this is the X and Y coordinates of every location in my world, which is this 2D array type thing. So I have a location 0, 0, a location 0, 1, and a location 0, 2. So really, I mean, setting up the game world making your game is really just creating all of these locations. So I know it's kind of tedious here, but making a game, no one said it was easy. And there might be a simpler way to do this. If you have ideas, please let me know in the comments. I know this is probably pretty confusing for a lot of us, but I just want to get you started on this. Location 2 has no enemy. And next couple videos, I'll try to explain a little more about how this works. But you can just see, to make a new location, I copied location 01 to 02, changed all the 01s to be 02s. And we can't go north here, so I'm going to get rid of this option. And I'm going to make it so you can't go east, and there's no fight. So if you're here, you've reached a dead end. But maybe I'll have an inspection option or something so that I can look around and see if there's anything here I could pick up, maybe create an inventory system. There were a lot of ways you could take this, and I think a lot of, a good amount of students had fun with this. I think it was a little complicated. I wish I had my YouTube video channel when I started this whole thing. Maybe this would have helped you guys to understand it, but you can always come back if you're watching the video now. That's kind of the start, introduction to this text-based adventure game, and you can watch the next videos to see how and I'll try to explain the game more and maybe add some new stuff into it. So happy coding, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this first video. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll keep dropping content. We'll get to cool stuff. I think this text-based adventure is really cool. I'm hoping to highlight one of my students' games. I'm going to ask them if I can show their game on my channel, because one game in particular really stood out to me. My student took this really far and made an amazing game with custom music and all sorts of stuff. So if they let me, I'll post and show you what their game is all about, and try to guide you guys to build an amazing text-based adventure game yourself. So have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.